What's up guys, Dan Kohan here with my good friend and fellow investor Sterling Scott Jr. He is a 21-year-old investor. He already has 28 units of multifamily real estate, already a millionaire at 21 years old through those purchases. He heavily focuses on multifamily investing. He's a broker, commercial broker that deals mainly in multifamily and other commercial assets. And he's here to tell us about a bunch of things, including a awesome seller finance apartment complex he just recently purchased here in the Kansas City metro area, as well as some other multifamily deals and a bunch of cool stuff that he's doing, guys. If you want to get into real estate investing, if you're heavy into multifamily or whatever you're looking to do, guys, I'm a young guy, I'm 24. Sterling's only 21, guys. You can do this, and you can do this very quickly. It might take you a couple years, guys, but you know, we're getting our businesses set up for the rest of our lives, guys. It can happen very fast with very determined effort, and we're gonna hear all about it, guys. Give it up for Sterling Scott Jr.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. How did you get here to today? Like, you know, what's kind of your background? You know, where'd you come from to where, you know, now you're, you know, multifamily broker, you know, multifamily investor now, like 21 years old, like surely you didn't pop out the womb, you know, knowing how to do this stuff. So like well,
pretty much.
Tell us the story.
Yeah, so growing up, my mom was in residential real estate, so she sold houses. My dad owned the commercial brokerage, so he did the commercial side. He owns some office and retail buildings, so I would go with him throughout the months doing work on the buildings, talking to him about commercial deals. At the dinner table, I'd hear about my mom's side of the business and my dad's side of the business, and I always just kind of knew that I wanted to do commercial real estate. Seeing both sides of the business, seeing how my dad did, I wanted to kind of follow in his footsteps and join him once I got to that position. I graduated high school in 2020, went to K-State. While I was at K-State, I got my real estate license, and 2 years after being there, I was driving home every weekend, working on real estate deals. I was working with a local company, helping them add single families kind of to their portfolio, and classes were online. I was really tired. I had enough of the college partying experience.
Yeah.
I was ready to go full-time into real estate. So I left K-State in March of 2022 to finish classes online while I went full-time into real estate. So in 2022, in March, I went full-time into real estate, closed my first property. And in in 2022, I did about $7 million in sales. And so that was my first 9 months. And then 2023 was my first full calendar year, and I hit over 30 million in sales. So
wow.
Now here we are, January 2024. I got 28 units
that you own.
That I own, and I'm ready to provide more value to even more clients and help them throughout the multifamily transactional process, and just help people and provide as much value as I can. At the end of the day, I really think that the more value you provide to people, the more in turn it'll come your direction. So just try to go out there, be a good person, and provide value and help everybody succeed.
It's awesome, man. Tell me about this multifamily you just bought. You know, I know we talked at the that meetup, and like,
for sure,
you were like, hey, I'm buying, you know, was it 28 doors? 28 unit, like seller finance with like very little money down and like Leavenworth. And I was like, that sounds really cool, man. Like, we got to get you on the show.
Yeah, for sure. So I think when we talked was a week after we signed the contract, hadn't done inspections yet.
Yeah.
Closing it 2 weeks later. It was a 21-day close. Had to get it in before the end of 2023. Needed to take advantage of the 80% bonus depreciation after the cost seg because didn't want to pay any taxes. So got it closed in 3 weeks.
Right.
And about 60 days later. So we're running fairly smooth. No fires yet. It's been fun. So we'll talk about the process,
the ins and
how
outs.
we got here.
Okay, awesome. Like, tell me how you you found it. You know, I mean, I know you have these connections in the you know, being a broker and stuff, but like, I mean, you don't really find seller finance multifamily too often.
So the biggest part of my job is talking with owners, sellers, buyers, anybody in the industry every day.
Yeah.
I want people to know what I'm doing, what I'm looking for, what my clients are looking for, so that opportunities come my direction. I did not get a hold of this seller personally.
Okay.
I had another individual bring it my way that I've done lots of business with, and they knew what I've done. We've done lots of business together. They knew what I was looking for. They brought it my way because they knew it was something I was going to be interested in. I think from the time I saw it to the time I got under contract was about a week, and then time to close was 3 weeks later. So it was a fast deal. And this was all around Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I had about a month before the end of the year, including Thanksgiving, Christmas, all that. I wanted to make sure that this got closed in 2023 so I could take advantage of the tax write-offs, and we got to it.
So like, how are you able to execute that quickly? I mean, going from, you know, getting the deal to getting it under contract in a week on a large multifamily, I mean, you know, you got to have your criteria and also just like your money, your financing, things like that pretty lined up in advance to be able to make a decision that quick. Or like, what kind of parameters were you looking for to allow you to do that so quickly?
Pretty much my main thing was it had to cash flow day one. I wasn't going to go in anything negative.
Yeah.
Especially in the current environment, if you can cash flow day one and kind of ride turmoil that a lot are experiencing now with rising expense costs, I think you'll be able to ride it out. There also had to be some upside to it that I could force into it. So it met my value add criteria, cash flow day one, had significant upside. The seller financing was just a cherry on top.
Wow.
And I saved all year. I was patient. There were multiple deals that I wanted to get into that I am happy I did not, because if I got into those deals and forced something to happen, I would not have been in the position with the cash holdings that I had ready to deploy at the time this deal came. So patience was key for the right deal to come up. Cash flow day one, had a lot of upside with the value add. Seller financing was a massive bonus for 5 years, very low interest rate. Took advantage of that. That's how I knew I had to lock it up and buy it myself.
So do you think just like what made you pass on all those other ones, whereas this one was like, gotta do it?
Greedy kind of sounds bad, but I didn't want to settle for the average returns that most investors do, just because, I mean, there's nothing wrong with the safe 6 to 8% returns, 14 to 17% IRR over your holding period, but I think being young, you can take those risks for the higher returns. So that's kind of what I was looking for. I want to be aggressive and multiply my money as quick as possible.
Absolutely, I feel the same way. I mean, I see deals every day that it's just like, you know, yeah, you can make money, but, you know, you're not gonna make enough money, you know, or it's not gonna be like a screaming deal, you know?
Yeah, I wanted a home run.
A home run deal, that's it.
I wasn't going for any singles or doubles. Now, singles and doubles are great. I think from moving forward, I'll take some singles and doubles. I needed to make something happen in 2023, and I got the opportunity for a home run deal. That kind of just sparked it.
That's awesome, man. That's really cool. So what have you been doing to like save that? You said you built up a lot of cash. You know, what do you do day to day to make, like, a lot of people, you know, they either have a job or they syndicate or whatever, like, you know, how'd you make that cash to buy that deal? I'm
a multifamily broker. Pretty much my main niche is 20 to 150 unit apartment complexes. So just kind of sub-institutional. Have a lot of connections of buyers that are buying that product. So I find sellers that are looking to exit, connect them with the buyers and broker the transaction. Bulk of my transactions have been in the 40 to 80 unit range. And I've just been saving 80% of those commission checks, ready to deploy the capital when the time was right. And that's my day-to-day is coming into the office. This is my office, and making phone calls, doing deals just like any other real estate agent, but in the multifamily industry.
Yeah, a lot of grind, a lot of saving. You know, it takes a lot to not just ball out with your Lamborghini and save those commission checks.
It is a grind in any commission-based sales position. You never know when your next paycheck's gonna be. You know, it could be 30 days out. It could be 4 or 5 months out.
Yeah, especially in multifamily with the
large transactions. You know, I've had transactions that have been 4 or 5 months long. That's a long time without a check.
That's a long time.
Learning to save that money definitely is beneficial, because if you're spending the money as the commission check hits, you're gonna go broke. And when times slow down, like in 2023 for some people, they're gonna have to find something else to do. You're gonna have to go get a 9 to 5 and do something else, and not have the ability to pursue the deals.
Yeah, because you got to be in it every day, or somebody that's like yourself that's in it full time is going to get it before you do, you know?
Yeah, I really don't think you can do this part time. It takes a full commitment.
100%.
So somebody doing it part time, you're not going to service your client to the best of the abilities, and somebody full-time's gonna get the deal ahead of you.
100%. So tell me about the, so you said you got seller financing on this deal, right? Like, was that, that's kind of like the mystical, unicorn that everyone's looking for, and it's definitely possible, like, was that something that this seller like wanted immediately out the gate, or because I know, a lot of guys, they're very open to it, or like, was that something that you had to propose and really kind of sell him on and sell him on your terms?
Yeah, so out the gate, seller financing, he said, was an option. This was the last of his holdings in the Kansas City metro area. He's owned it for 20 plus years, sold all his other multifamily years ago. This was his last one. He lives out of state, so he couldn't manage the property to the ability it needed to be managed to since he's not local. Didn't have any debt on the property. He made that very clear in the beginning. And he knew that it's been mismanaged. He knew that somebody's gonna have to come in, they're gonna have to put money into it. So that was another big reason for why he was willing to do the seller financing, is because I made a commitment to him in the contract of a certain amount of CapEx I would do to the property in the first 90 days. So he made it clear from the beginning, beneficial to both parties. Over the past 10 years, property just kind of slowly went downhill. So he wasn't able to sell it for a price that he probably hoped to initially. So throughout seller financing, he was able to actually make more money than if I had to go get bank debt.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like, especially on these very neglected or kind of mom and pop properties, like if they don't have, if it's too distressed or if the financials aren't very good, like it's going to be impossible to even get a bank loan sometimes.
Yeah. No, you'd have to get bridge debt, and bridge debt today is running anywhere from 11.5% to 13.5%, plus you got to pay 2 to 4 points in the beginning. It's hard to make a deal happen with that unless it's a killer deal. Would this deal have worked with expensive bridge debt? Probably, but you definitely would have been floating something for the first 6 to 12 months with a lot of variables, and it's not something I would have wanted to do.
And is bridge debt pretty much like a hard money loan, essentially?
Yeah, so bridge debt's pretty much a hard money loan. There's different terms to it, but it's not very friendly debt. The lenders are definitely getting the better end of the stick because they're getting very high interest rates, because it's a riskier loan because they're not going into something that's as stabilized. Usually you want to get out of it as quick as possible because you're paying absurd interest rates. There's some bridge structures where you will get the bridge debt that rolls into a long-term debt with better rates. So
once the property is stabilized.
Once it's stabilized. So you might get some for 6 to 12 months, and then it rolls into a 30-year AM, 5-year fix at a better interest rate right now, between 6 and 7 multifamily.
So what kind of, if you're at liberty to say, what kind of what kind of debt structure did you structure? Your rate, down payment, terms, etc.
So I got 5-year interest-only payments.
Okay.
At a very favorable interest rate, much below what any bank could or would offer, and at a down payment lower than what any bank could or would offer. And that's the whole goal of seller financing.
Yeah.
You got to beat the bank. If the seller financing is not beating the bank, why would you do it?
Exactly, that's no point.
Yeah, and he was a very wealthy individual who has a lot of developments on the East Coast. He was excited to see somebody young that would take it over and hopefully turn the property around into what it really could be.
Like, why would he do those terms at worse than the market? Of course you said it's distressed, so might not have qualified. Did you give him like a higher price, or what was the motivation? Did he just like you, or what happened?
Yeah, I did talk with him quite a bit to build some rapport so that he could trust me. I made sure he had all my his kids, because he's older, he doesn't have any forms of technology, so I wanted all his kids to look me up on all the social platforms on LinkedIn to see that I'm legit and that I'm doing business and that I'm not just nobody or scammer that's trying to do something. But if he would have sold it on open market, I think he probably would have gotten beat up during inspections probably, and you just couldn't, unless it was a cash buyer, there was not a bank that was going to lend on it. And it was just very distressed. He has lots of money from his other developments. He was done with it. 10 years prior, he had the wrong management company in there. They stole him blind, or robbed him blind, whatever the quote is. So they stole all his money. He was done with it. He was tired of having to deal with it. He couldn't fly out to Kansas every week. So right now I'm going out there once a week, being on top of contractors, on top of property management, making things are getting ran correctly. And he just didn't have the means to do so, because he's enjoying his retirement. So
he doesn't the money just doesn't matter to him,
No, he's happy to see that somebody's going to take over and care for it and put some money into it. With my CapEx requirement that we put into the contract, I'll be into it for 25-30% of a down payment on the purchase price.
Like relatively, but still that's pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, how much percent did you put down, you know, or around?
Yeah, so I put a little less than 10%. I put around 8% down.
Okay.
But with the CapEx I'm putting into it, I'll be kind of all in on the purchase price, 25-30%.
Still really good.
But I'm getting better terms, so.
Yeah.
You could argue that, you could have gotten a bridge loan and funded all your rehab. I saved up a lot of money over the past year from my commissions. I'm not the biggest fan of debt, so I wanted to keep that as low as possible and go through the most favorable terms so that I could keep my cash flow high.
Absolutely.
Cash flow's king.
Cash flow is king.
10x, baby.
10x, that's right. You know, do you think that there was an element of like, you know, you spoke a lot about like he wanted to, you know, you built the credibility with your, you know, your presence. Hey, like, I mean, most 21-year-olds, they can't even get a credit card, right? Like, but to be able to finance a, you know, 28 unit building, like you have to definitely build some good rapport and trust because, you know, obviously the seller's word, hey, like, is this guy going to pay me back? Do you think that, like, how much of that was there that? And then also just, like, you know, how much of it just went to, you know, you said he just kind of want to, like, pass the torch, like, you know, wanted to see someone take it and really, you know, run with it that had more of that energy?
So I think a big part of his trust also came with kind of the reputation I built with the individual he was working with, because I've done a lot of work with that individual. So he was able to kind of speak on my behalf of working with me over the past year. Your history, your integrity is kind of the biggest thing like you can hold. So especially in Kansas City is like a small town.
Very small.
Everybody knows within the industry, everybody knows everybody.
For sure. Or everybody knows somebody else that knows them. You know?
I mean, like they say in the world, you're like 5 or 6 steps away from people. In Kansas City, you're like 1.
You're 2, yeah. Like
it's all about your reputation. You got to have some integrity. With the individual I worked on, or with the individual that was kind of working with him, I've worked with him on several deals. There was one deal where he connected me on the brokerage side with the seller. Over a year later, a transaction finally occurred. No paperwork was signed. He never knew this transaction occurred. A lot of other people, they could have just, you know, gone the other way, taking the commission check.
Yep.
Well, I called him up. I said, hey, come pick up a check.
Yeah.
So over a year later, I paid him off for a referral. And I think that just kind of goes to say, have integrity and do the right thing, and in turn, it'll come back to you. So
100%.
That kind of established a lot of trust within the individual I worked on here. So
I'm sure you probably told the seller that story, you know, that he. You do the right thing. It'll always come back to you. Everybody knows everybody. You gotta have what it takes to do the deal. I was about to buy a $400 round trip plane ticket to fly out here fly out to where he lives in the morning, get the contract signed, and fly back. Because he doesn't have email. I was talking to his daughter. All the conversations were going between me and his daughter. They had to print it out and fax it back. I was about to buy a plane ticket, head out there to get the contract signed. You got to do what it takes. 100%.
And if you don't want to put the effort in to do what it takes, you just need to get a 9-to-5 job where you can go have a task you do for somebody else and then go home and forget about it.
Yeah, it's definitely not for the feeble-minded.
Yeah, no, and this never stops either. You know, you get calls late at night from, you know, property management. They need your approval for something, but just entrepreneurship in general, you're thinking about it 24/7. So it's not something you want to do. Probably should stay away from it.
That's it. You can either slack off, or you could own large multifamily buildings in your early 20s.
It's not all daisies and
sunshine and daisies.
Sunshine and daisies.
Yeah.
Owning real estate is not all sunshine and rainbows like all the gurus on the internet make it up to be. Shit happens. Your whole lower floor will flood with literal sewage.
Oh man, I feel like that's a true story.
It's not passive like people make it sound if you're actually buying something. Now you can invest as a limited partner in a syndication, and then your money will be passive, but there's risks, just like there's risks with anything. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions that has kind of been shown on social media with all these gurus that just sell courses and stuff to make their money and don't actually do deals.
Yeah, they're incentivized to make it look as easy as possible, you know? They don't want to show the hard stuff.
For sure.
Because they want people in the door, you know?
For sure.
No, man, you're right. It's every day. I had a seller like a week or so ago, and I had to stay up because he works nights, and I had to stay up till 2 a.m. to answer a phone call with him to talk about getting this deal closed because, you know, that's the only time you can talk.
No, you got to do what it takes.
It's just like whatever, you know.
That goes back to you got to do what it takes. It's the hustle.
Do what it takes.
Hey.
You heard it here. Get her done.
You got to love it. You got to love the process.
You do. I love it, man. It's like we're in the hunt, you know. It's like you're going after to try to slay the whale.
And when you get it feels great.
So Sterling, you know, I know you just bought this building and everything, but like, what are you know, what's your main focus day to day?
Yeah, so what I love to do is I love to work with people and provide value in the multifamily space. I'm with SVN and Compass. Our office is in the Northland. However, we operate all around the Kansas City metro. So I run all of our multifamily sales. My dad's actually the broker of the office. He does all of the office and retail. Within the multifamily division, I love networking with owners, buyers, everybody in the industry, seeing how I can provide value, just day to day, getting people solid investments and maximizing their investments and maximizing their returns.
You know, and it sounds like, I mean, I've talked to a lot of brokers and stuff, but like, it's one thing to be a broker. It's also one thing to be a broker and an owner.
For sure.
Because like, you know, I can tell you from my own experience, like owning your own stuff, like you have to have a very deep understanding of not only how the investment works, but like how the returns are going to work from a buyer seller perspective. Because you can give, as an owner, you know, yourself, like you can give such a higher degree of insight into a deal because you just have such a deeper understanding of how these deals work and what it's going to look like for the buyer and seller, you know, down the road.
Yeah, for sure. I think having that ownership piece is very beneficial, so I can connect with buyers and sellers on a kind of a deeper understanding of the actual product behind the investment for more than just a numbers side trying to make a sale happen. So I can actually provide value throughout the whole transaction process beyond just the closing. So,
right. You know, we know you're a broker and stuff like that, and that's what you're doing. I mean, what as a real estate professional in the multifamily space, you know, I mean, especially just for the Kansas City area, you know, we're very early in January of 2024 as the recording of this video. You know, where do you see the multifamily market going, or kind of what do you forecast in terms of what's going to happen?
Yeah, so I will forecast it like a weatherman.
Yeah.
If the rates go up, the market could slow down.
Okay.
If the rates go down, the market could go up. So
there you go.
I'll cover my basis either way.
Yeah.
However, I have seen things start to loosen up a little bit. It seems like the people that were sitting on the sidelines most of 2023 feel like rates might be more stable where they are at. So they're getting back into the market and ready to deploy capital. There is still lots of capital on the table for the right deals. Sellers still need to realize that the value of their properties are not what they were worth in 2021 and 2022 because expenses have risen at just an astronomical rate. A lot of the times expenses are outpacing the rent growths, and the sellers that do realize that are able to sell their property and profit on their exit. So there's lots of capital ready to be deployed on the right deals. Inventory is still low because there's a lot of sellers that aren't wanting to sell right now in the uncertainty, but I'm starting to see things loosen up. Sellers are starting to realize that the values of their properties have changed and they're accepting that, ready to sell and move on to their next investment. So I think 2024 will get better as the year goes on. A lot of people think the rates are gonna kind of level off where they're at.
Yeah.
And historically, our rates right now are decent.
Yeah, they're about par, it seems like, with historical norms.
2021 was out of the ordinary, like manipulated, totally fake
For sure.
It is nothing that people can get used to.
Yeah, they'll never drop it down to those rates again.
Yeah.
You know?
And I don't know if we're going to have a huge crash. If we have a massive crash and the dollar just completely loses its value, I think we're in for a world of hurt, and you're not going to be worrying about what your real estate value is. If the economy collapses and our dollar collapses, nobody's going to care about what the value of the real estate is, because we're going to be worried about a lot of other things.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think 2024 will be another good year for the right deals.
Man. Good deal. Well, thanks for coming on, man.
Sure,
and how can people get a hold of you if they want to, do a deal with you somehow, or get on your list for your multifamily deals here?
Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. It's Sterling H. Scott. Phone number and email in the comments or in the text right here. Phone number is 816-520-1015. My email is sterlingh.scott@svn.com. Feel free to shoot me a call, shoot me a message. I'd be happy to chat with you, discuss more about Kansas City multifamily, and would love to help you on your future investments.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for coming on, guys. If you enjoyed that, please hit the like button and subscribe down below. Comment if you have any questions about this video or things that Sterling did, guys. Love to have him back on again. And with that, guys, I'm Dan Kohan. This is Sterling Scott, and we will see you guys in the next chapter.
Thank you.